Hello, welcome back to the OTB channel. Today's video is, well, it started off being a quick look at the openSUSE Leap 15.1 distribution, and I was hoping it was just going to be a very quick review. It's turned out to be a little bit longer than that, so I hope you bear with it and I hope you enjoy it. I certainly enjoyed making it and was quite surprised. My days with openSUSE or SUSE started off in the 9.1 days when I bought it in a box at PC World. That was the way we used to buy software. And initially it wasn't that successful. I had a K6-2 CPU in an old desktop and it just wasn't powerful enough. So that failed and the box got thrown away. It's a shame, I should have kept it really. I later tried some of the openSUSE versions, I think it was 10 and 11, on more powerful hardware, and that they were successful installs, but I had problems with the NVIDIA driver because I had an NVIDIA card at the time, and after running upgrades, I had blank screens and couldn't get back into the X server, and so they went by the board and I went on to another distro. Haven't tried it since, so well over 10 years. Hope you enjoy this review. I do apologise in advance. I seem to have picked up a little bit of a chest infection, so there's the odd hacking cough throughout the video, but please bear with me. Anyway, we'll get together and have a chat after you've seen this, so enjoy. Now, on your screens you should see the openSUSE web page. And clearly I had the choice of Tumbleweed, which is the rolling release, or Leap, which I believe is the more stable version with regular releases every 12 months. I was a little bit unsure about what to download here. Nevertheless, in the end I thought, well, I don't really want things to break on this demonstration, so I've gone for Leap, and we'll see how things go. I moved over to the download page, openSUSE 15.1 Leap, and I've got two options here. A DVD image of 3.78 gigs, so it's a pretty large download, or a network image. For running this in Virtualbox, I decided that it might be quicker in the long run to download the DVD image rather than the network image. So I'm doing that as we speak. Once it's done, I'll open up Virtualbox, we'll fire her up and see what we think of openSUSE. Right, surprisingly that didn't take too long, about 15-20 minutes, so the download server seems quite fast. I've set everything up in Virtualbox as normal. I've given openSUSE 2 threads of my i5 processor. I've given it 8 gig of RAM and I set it up with a 56 gig virtual hard drive. I've not set up an EFI system on this one. I'm trying to keep it simple actually, and we're just going to go for a standard MBR setup and see how it goes. It's been a long time since I fired up openSUSE. I'm not really too sure what to expect. I'm not sure whether or not there will be a default desktop. There didn't seem to be spins as such. There was various other distributions that are based on openSUSE that I could have downloaded, but I thought I'd go straight to the source and download the main one. So let's see what happens. I'm going to hit start and it's coming up on my other screen. So boot from hard disk, well, we don't want that. We want to install, so I'll just click install and see what happens. It's a very large ISO file, So I'm presuming this is going to come with an awful lot of programs pre-installed, or at least options to install them directly off the installation media. So openSUSE Leap 15.1. I think it's SUSE or SUSE. I remember back in the day, everybody I knew used to call it Susie, but I think we've become educated a little bit more now. So what's it doing? It's obviously getting on with it. I've got a blank terminal in front of me, but clearly we've now gone into the main installation. So it's initializing. I wonder if I can just move this Virtualbox window slightly to make it easier to get at. No, apparently I can't, so we'll just live with that. And we'll see what happens. Okay, well, there's been no interaction from me at all so far, but it's moving on and doing its own thing. Right, so language, what do I want? Well, I want English UK. The keyboard, it's already set up. A license agreement. Okay, you don't often get these on Linux, but fine. Next. Do I have to accept this? No, I don't. The system has an active network connection. Additional software is available online. Activate online repositories. Okay, that makes sense. I'll click yes to that. Right, so the update repository, the non-OSS repository, the main update repository, and the main repository. Okay, I don't want to download untested updates, so let's just go with the default and click next. And presumably it's now adding these to the system. I'm assuming that although there's an awful lot of packages on this ISO image, what the installer will now do is go out to the repositories and pull the latest versions down if they exist. I could be wrong, but let's see. It's a very different installer from the Calamaris one and the Anaconda installer, so I would assume it's openSUSE's own installer. I know that openSUSE has always been renowned for being very pretty, and the installer actually looks quite strange to me, but I remember at the time when I was installing it 10 plus years ago that compared to many of the other installations that I tried and succeeded on some, openSUSE was always one of the simpler ones. Okay, it's finally initializing the installation, so let's see what it's telling me. System roles are predefined use cases which tailor the system for the selected scenario. Okay, so I can choose Plasma, GNOME, a generic desktop, a server or a transactional server. Right, so I can see here that I've got no option for Mate. So I'm basically, do I go with Plasma or do I go with GNOME? Do you know what? I'm going to go with Plasma. I don't think I've used KDE since I used to run Mepis, so a long time ago. I certainly haven't run a KDE desktop since KDE 3. So let's click next and see what happens. Okay, so it's going to create a GPT partition, which is interesting because I haven't set this up for EFI. It's going to create, a BIOS boot partition. Okay. Right, it looks like it's setting up swap with a ButterFS partition. Never used one, but why not? I'll let it go through with the default. And it's setting up a 2 gig swap partition. Let's just click on details to see what it's going to do. Okay, pretty standard. Let's just click next. And hopefully it's now going to get on with, I was going to say getting on with the installation, but actually it's gone straight to the time zone, which it's picked correctly. Pick a user, so we'll go with OTB. I'll set my normal password for it. Use this password for system admin. Yes, I might as well have it as the root login as well. I don't want to do automatic login though. I would rather log in manually. Let's click next. Okay, so bootloader type grub2. So it is MBR. Just find it a bit strange that it's set up a GPT partition table, but it doesn't really matter. Install the boot code into the MBR. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look. It's going to install KDE Plasma 5 desktop. YAST, which I think stands for yet another system, yet another setup program or something like that. I'll find out. Office software, fonts, the X Windows system, games, and a PIM suite. Size of packages to install 4.7 gigs. That seems pretty hefty. It's systemd. Right, well, I would pretty much expect that. Firewall will be enabled, SSH will be disabled, and the SSH port will be blocked. Okay, I'm fine as far as that's concerned. And it's going to use Network Manager, and I have the option to switch to Wicked. I'm going to stay with Network Manager. All looks fine on those initial settings, so I'll click Install. Information required for the base installation is now complete. If you continue, your partitions will be written, etc, etc. That's absolutely fine. Let's click Install and let it get on with it. Warming up. Right, I'm going to actually pause this now, and we will come back when it's finished. It's actually 12:56, as you can see on the screen now, and we'll see how long this takes. Right, it's going to do an automatic reboot now. It's 12 minutes past 1, and it didn't stop. It just said the system's going to boot, so we might as well see what happens. Boot from hard disk. Well, that's obviously what we want to do. So if I click on capture the mouse, openSUSE Leap 15.1, and see what we've got. I did a little bit of reading while I was watching the installation, and I believe I didn't have to choose the KDE or the GNOME option. If I had chosen the generic desktop option, I would have later got the option to install Mate, XFCE or LXDE. So I've probably installed a whole pile of software here that I didn't actually require if I wanted a Mate desktop, but it's all a learning experience. Anyway, that booted quite quick. The installation itself seemed to take a little bit longer than I would normally expect when I'm installing something from Calamaris from a live CD, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So let me just put in my password and click OK. I quite like the light bulb with the little gecko there. Let's see what happens. Okay. So it's connected. Let's see if we can do anything at all about the resolution at the moment. I have to say that, as I say, I haven't used KDE for a long time, so I don't know if this is going to have the guest editions already installed or not, but we'll just see. So Windows Manager, desktop behavior, application style. Okay, this doesn't actually seem to have anything to do with the resolution. So I'm sort of guessing as I go along here. Let's see if we can put this into full screen mode and see what happens. Okay, not a lot. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pause this for just a minute and I'm going to install the guest additions and we'll come back once that's already sorted. Okay, so I did a little bit of fiddling about and my unfamiliarity, I can't even say the word, unfamiliarity with KDE was the problem there. In actual fact, I just didn't go far enough. If I'd gone to system settings and scrolled all the way down, under hardware, there is an option for the display or monitor. When I open that up, I have the option there to set the resolution. I could only set it as a max of 1680 by 1080, sorry, 1620 by 1080. I couldn't get the full 1080 experience anyway. So I installed the Virtualbox guest editions from the CD that you can hook up within Virtualbox and rebooted. And hey ho, what you know, everything is good. So I've just been taking a look at this desktop and actually I'm pleasantly surprised with the Plasma desktop. I haven't used KDE since, you know, the KDE 3 days on Mepis, and that was quite a plain KDE experience, and I didn't mind the desktop at all then, but at the time I preferred GNOME 2. Then along came KDE 4 with its widgets and all sorts of things all over the place, and I wasn't keen at all. However, I struggled along with GNOME 3, and I eventually gave up on that and went to XFCE and then subsequently Mate. But looking at this particular implementation of KDE, I quite like it. I am not for 1 minute claiming that I know how to configure this. I would have to do some reading. I'm just looking at the panel here, configure panel. Okay, height, add widget, add spacer, more settings. Where do I want it? Left, center, right. Actually, I would probably want it on the top. Not sure how to do that at the moment, but doesn't matter. We'll go with what we've got for the time being. So, the application launcher. Now that I've figured out how to get into things, we seem to have there some commonly used applications, but if we want everything, we go to the applications menu. Games, we've got a few games installed. Mahjong, Reversi, no idea what that is. Some card games. Patience, as always, is there. And we have Minesweeper and Sudoku. Okay, all good. In terms of graphics, we've got something called Ocular, which is a document viewer. And LibreOffice Draw is there, along with a scanning app. And the KDE image viewer. Okay, fine. What about internet? Right, we've got a feed reader, an IRC client, Kmail, which I believe has long been KDE's default mail client. It would be nice to actually see Thunderbird there, but it clearly isn't there. Tiger VNC viewer, that's quite unusual for a default install, but nevertheless, fine. And we have Firefox as the standard web browser. Moving on to multimedia, just VLC there. Office, right, we have a mixture here. We have the K address book, Kmail, Contact, K Organizer, so the KDE native Office suite, but that seems to be installed alongside LibreOffice, which is fine. Settings. Okay, I think these are common settings. There is YAST, and I've looked it up and it's yet another setup tool. So that's what it actually stands for. Helper tool to detect Wacom tablets. That could be useful if you're a user, but fine. The system. YAST is there again. A little icon to install or remove software. The Software Center Discover. Now, I'm not even going to open that because I've not had good reports about that, so we'll just leave that for the time being. And the standard terminal emulator. Okay, and utilities, what have we got there? An archiving tool. Kcalc, screen magnifier. Okay. Nothing there that doesn't look fine, but I'm just quite surprised with the size of the ISO that more isn't actually installed by default. What I do want to look at is this, YAST. YAST has been the tool that has distinguished SUSE and openSUSE from many other distributions, and it's a little bit of a jack of all trades. You can do just about everything with it. And here you can see the main screen. So install or remove add-on products. Wonder what they are. We're only going to find out by clicking it and seeing what it says. Okay, I have no add-on products, so that's simple. Media check, okay, verify CDs and DVD media integrity. Online update. I have tried that, and at the moment it's coming up no updates available. So from that I am assuming, well, one of two things really. One, that when I was installing it did actually download newer versions online of anything that needed updating. But two, I know this is openSUSE Leap, which is meant to be the very stable version of SUSE, so there might not have been that much to install anyway. In terms of software management, let me have a look at software repositories to start off with. Excuse me. Okay, we just have those repositories that I installed during the installation process, and software management. Okay, we have an option to view there. Where do we go? I wonder if we got a oh, right, okay. So we can search for individual packages, or we can install patterns, or what's called patterns, which are essentially groups of software. I did see along here that we've got the Mate desktop environment as one of the patterns, which, needless to say, I'm quite interested in, and I think we'll have a go at doing that afterwards. Package groups, right, okay. Education, graphics, Office, XFCE, other desktops. Let's just click on other desktops. Okay, a right old mixture there. Admin tools, publishing. Great. Well, let's just come out of there for the time being. So lots of GUI tools to help you do what you do. Not that you necessarily need GUI tools, because the command line package manager in openSUSE is Zypper. I'm not familiar with Zypper. Nevertheless, there's no reason why you couldn't get used to it quite quickly. Configure printers. Do you know, just for the hell of it, let's see if it can find my network printer. Okay. Print by the network. Printer configurations. Let's do an ad and see what happens. To see if it detects the printers. I'm doing what a brand new user to openSUSE and perhaps even to Linux might do, and just experimenting because I'm not used to this distribution. Right, so I've asked to add a printer and it says it's retrieving printer driver information. I don't know whether that means it's already spotted my printer, but I think that's a no so far. So I'm just going to cancel out of there. So, okay, not that great, given that, was it Peppermint? Just detected it immediately. Got a scanner, sound, the system keyboard, and you can fiddle about with your bootloader. There's kernel settings, many things which you probably aren't going to use, a partitioner, all the sysadmin sort of stuff, set up an LDAP and Kerberos client, a mail server, an NFS client, pretty much whatever you want to do. Your firewalls there and all your security settings. Okay, lots to explore. I think the thing about SUSE or openSUSE right from the word go is YAST was an additional tool, yet another setup tool, that was installed as a layer over the standard desktop environment's settings page, and it allowed you to do things perhaps in a slightly easier way. With most modern desktops these days, and let's take Marty as an example, the standard settings I've found to be pretty much sufficient for most of the things that you would want to do. Is there still a need for YAST? Perhaps if you're a system admin and this is going on a large network and you want to do lots of complicated things, perhaps there is a place for YAST. Certainly it gives you a GUI to do just about everything from what I can see, so no real problems there. So let's go back to the desktop. I quite like this. I quite like the look of it. I quite like the flat icon themes. This is Dolphin, the file manager. Okay. Quite nice. Let's see if we can just launch a terminal and see what version kernel this is on. With it being the stable version, I wouldn't imagine it's 4.12.14. Okay, so quite an old kernel, but I believe patched with many of the features of later kernels, so in terms of your hardware detection. If you've got a brand new computer with very, very modern hardware, you might actually be better running Tumbleweed. I think after having installed this, I might have had a go at Tumbleweed initially, and I might even have used the net installer and would certainly have chosen the generic desktop to bring down just a base install of a Mate desktop. But anyway, not a problem. So one of the things with openSUSE, and it's been this way for a long time, is it has the ability for you to add additional package repositories. And Pacman is something that has been used in openSUSE for as long as I've been using it. So it can add all the essential stuff such as video and audio codecs, multimedia, etc., etc. It's a little bit like RPM Fusion. And this is a page on the openSUSE wiki, which points to Pacman, and it even gives you the option of installing all of Pacman with a zipper command. So I'm going to do that. So let's just copy that, stick a sudo in there, a password, and see what happens from here. Enabled, yes. GPD check, yes. Priority 90. Okay, so I think that's been installed. It does say here, let me just move this out of the way. Or it did say earlier, I think they advise us that after installing Pacman, there we go, that we should do a zipper DUP, which I think is a little bit like the full upgrade or the dist upgrade, where it may well need to switch package repositories. So let's just do that and see what happens. So Pacman's certainly there. Do you want to reject the key, trust temporarily, or trust always? Well, I want to trust it always, so I'm presuming that's an A. So, right, so it's going to bring down the lib AVIC codecs. It's going to bring down a different version of VLC. Continue. Yes, let's continue. And let's see how long it takes to actually install those. Pretty fast so far. Okay. Looks like we're nearly done. And we are. We're done. So that's all there was to installing the Pacman repo. Let's just have a look again in YAST. We'll get to it from there. Let's check on our software repositories to make sure that Pacman's actually there. There it is, right at the top. Okay, that's good. And let's just go to software management, and I just want to broadly see what sort of things are in there. So one of the things that I would install automatically would be OBS Studio. So let's do a search for OBS. And there it is, 23.2. So if I just click on that, click accept, it's going to install those other packages. Continue. I have to say that since I last used openSUSE, which is a long time ago, it seems to have got faster. So is that done? Installation successfully finished. Okay, good. Let's see where that is. So applications, will that have put it in multimedia? Yes, it will. OBS Studio is installed. Okay, all great. Don't have a problem with this so far. Let us, though, see what the Mate installation is like. Again, I've gone on to the wiki, and apparently, according to this, it says the openSUSE Mate team is proud to announce the availability of Mate 1.10. Well, that's quite an old version. So let's see if it's newer. We have a command here to install Mate in Leap 15.1, which is what we're running. So let's give it a go. So if I hit sudo, I hit paste, password. Right. Right, so adding repository, the latest official release of Mate. Okay, well, so I've added the repository, which is fine. So how do I actually go about installing? Maybe I just go into the Software Center again. So let us open YAST. Let us go on to Software Management. Import that key. Yep, certainly. And let's have a look for the patterns. So view patterns. So Mate desktop environment. So I want to add all of that. Do I want to add it all? Do you know, why not? I'm just going to accept that and we'll see what happens. Continue. I'm going to just pause this and we'll come back once it's done. Okay, so the installation of Mate is now finished. It was quite a big installation, as you can see. The total install size was 1.548 gigs, which involved a download of 537.35 megs. It took a little while, but it's done now. Whilst I was installing it, I also realised that I could have done it a lot easier if I'd bothered reading this page, which said add a repository via the command line and click on the icon to use the one-click install files. So if we go down to openSUSE Elite 15.1, yes, by copying and pasting that command, I added the Mate desktop repo, but all I needed to do then was to click on the Mate desktop environment button and there would have been a one-click install. So it's been a bit of a learning experience for me. You'll also notice, by the way, the panel is now at the top. Way! Quick Google search, the way to do it I found was, hold on, unlock the widgets, yeah, panel options, configure panel. I simply clicked on the screen edge button and dragged it, simple as that. And I like the way that looks. I like the way it looks a lot. I suppose while I'm here I should have a look and see what backgrounds we've got available. So wallpaper, okay, not a huge amount at the moment. What's that one? I actually think I prefer the standard. So there's not a lot of wallpaper in there as standard, but we have a few different icons presumably. Who knows? I'd have to have a look. Doesn't matter for the time being, let's just cancel out of there. So, theoretically, that's Mate now installed. So let's see if I log out of this now, what actually happens. So if I click on leave, I should get the option to log out and end the session. Click OK to end the session immediately. Right. Desktop session plasma is currently set in the bottom left hand corner. Let's set it to Mate. And then let's re-log in and fingers crossed. Okay. They seem to have gone for the one panel configuration. Oh, that's quite nice though. It's got the Mint menu basically pre-installed. Let us just go to the properties of that panel and stick it on the top. What's here? Everything I need. Okay, that just opens up my computer. All applications. Interestingly, GIMP's now installed as well. Digicam, whole range of things. Okay. Didn't expect, if I'm honest, to be that impressed with openSUSE. And in choosing Leap rather than Tumbleweed, I thought, right, we might be getting something here that's quite old. But in actual fact, I quite like what we've got at the moment. Where's the control center? Is that the standard? That is the standard control center, which is very nice. So what version of Mate has been installed? I'd hope it's more than 1.10. Where am I going to find that? In the monitor? Mate system monitor. There we go. Let's bring it up. System. It isn't Mate 1.10, it's Mate 1.22. Okay, that's great. What's it actually using in terms of resources? 981.5 megs. That's not horrendous given that I haven't rebooted after installing Mate, and probably a lot of the plasma services are still running. Okay, let's go and have a chat about this. I'm surprisingly impressed so far. Well, that was fun. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. It only kind of reinforces the view that has kind of been expanding as I've been doing these distro reviews, that it's quite hard to find a bad distro these days. Most of them are pretty good, and it's just a case of the bells and whistles that they build on top of them and what suits you. SUSE, it's an RPM based distro, not developed from Red Hat. Actually, it has close ties with Slackware, although it obviously uses the RPM package format now. So yeah, I made some mistakes there. If I was going to do it again, I'd use the net install. I would choose generic desktop. I would choose just the Mate installation, and yeah, I could probably simplify the whole process and make it a little bit quicker. YAS still seems to be doing its job and is certainly one of the unique selling points of SUSE, or openSUSE, although it doesn't really need a selling point because it is free and open source software. Strangely enough, I'm not quite sure, but it doesn't seem sure why, but it doesn't seem to get as much publicity and reviews as some of the other distros that are around. But it's a top 10 distro and it's been around for an awful long time. Could I live in it? Absolutely. It's very, very polished. I'm not so sure about the installer. These days I prefer Calamaris, but openSUSE and SUSE has always done its own thing, and that's fine, you know, horses for courses. But I'd certainly, if you want to give it a shot, I would give it a shot. I would go for the net install though, rather than downloading almost 4 gigs. But that's it for today. I learnt a lot doing that. I approach this very much as if I was a new user, because essentially I haven't used SUSE for a long time. I certainly wasn't familiar with the Plasma 5 desktop, so I was finding my way around it. I was pleasantly surprised with that as well. I may play with that a little bit more on one of the distros that I've got installed, but we'll see. I may well produce another video over this bank holiday weekend. That will depend on the time, and it could well be another ramble, but let's wait and see. So thanks very much, and again, hope you enjoyed this. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, Please like and subscribe, it really helps, and stay well until next time.